What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to another live lesson on the right mindset. Today, we are going to go over how I write my novels. This is my second step in my process, which is I plot out the short form outline. The first step we went over was brainstorming, where I just kind of listed out the ideas for the main plot and some subplots as I just bloop. But now we are actually going to focus and we're going to start building on the short form outline. So let's get right to it. Let me hear that intro. Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with that intro, right? Because then we know it's time to develop the right mindset. All right, as always, okay, we really get into one second. What's going on here? Who? There we go. Boop. All right. Boop. All right. All right. Welcome. If you're just joining us today, I'm going over the second step of my writing process, how I write novels. The first step in the last video that we did in this series focused mostly on brainstorming. We're going to take that brainstorming session and we're moving on to the next thing, which is ultimately me laying out the outline, the short form outline. Hey, oh, look, it's Jonathan, everybody. All right, lurk around. I'm going to be saying a couple things about time. You go, yeah, well, this is my third week in a row, Mr. Jonathan. Third week in a row. All right, so let's do it. Let's get into it. Like I said, this is step 2. So this is actually me laying out a more in-depth movement of the brainstorming session into the short form outline, going through it. So show the protagonist in a terrible relationship. Yeah. Metal! All right. So as you can see, I have some subplots in here. The protagonist's mental health shows during this time. The soon-to-be ex-partner doesn't let the protagonist hang out with their friends, even though they all went to college together. All right. So I wouldn't necessarily map out these subplots. Like I wouldn't be like, here is something that happens to. But as ideas pop in, I might list them under here. So if I'm like, oh, it'd be interesting as a subplot if the best friend had dated the current girlfriend protagonist back in high school, right? So I could write that there, but then what I would do is in the main, I would try to establish that into the flow of things. So now that I kind of know, I'm not going to do that one. No, that's a little crazy. We don't need that. It takes away from the main plot. Remember that. All right. Now, you might be wondering, well, what are these things right here? Well, before I get into that, in the last video, I actually said that you can break up your plots into extended chapters. A plot point doesn't have to be the length of one chapter. So ultimately, the 27 plot point short form outline doesn't have to be 27 chapters. You could actually break plot points up into smaller beats and kind of focus on the intimacy of it. So in this case, to show the protagonist in a terrible relationship with these two subplots, I used chapter 1 as the introduction. Chapter 2 became the conflict of this particular plot point, and then what was the resolve to that plot point, which leads to the inciting incident. Because we all know that rule works with everything, including scene work. Every scene needs to have an introduction, basically why are we there, the conflict to the scene, what do they want, and what is the obstacle in their want, and how do they resolve it, and or is there a consequence. This also comes down to the Trey Parker and the creators and writers of South Park, they have a method of writing where they say this happens, therefore this happens, or this happens, but this happens, right? Whereas some writing turns out to this happens and then this happens and that's lots of things happening, but nothing is happening. So you want to challenge things. I talk about it as challenging, and the result is a consequence or change, and that's the therefore or the but. So again, if I really want to push my writing, and I have the protagonist. Let's say they decide to call out sick. Well, if it's and this, and then this, right? If they call out sick and I just make something else happen, well, now they're home. So they call out sick, then they are home. But if I really wanted to get into the complexity of writing, I could say they call in sick, and therefore they get a warning, or therefore someone's gonna catch them out and about, or I could go even further. I could go the protagonist calls in sick saying they don't feel well, therefore uh, the boss gives them a warning, says, hey, you're pretty close on you have no more sick days after this, whatever. But they are caught out at, say, Starbucks. So now we've created conflict, and like, how do we continue to build on that conflict? So now that they got caught at the Starbucks, now we can create something else that happens, right? Well, they have to make up an excuse. Well, if they make up an excuse, therefore that person goes back and tells the boss. But the protagonist is actually sick, right? Which they weren't originally, but then, like, you can keep going as far as you want. I got a little sidetracked there, but let's start mapping this out. So I made it a goal to make this story 27 chapters. So I'm not going to technically break it up like that, but because I'm suave, Rico Suave. All right. So these are my guidelines. And now let's figure out what's going to happen. So we want to show the protagonist in a terrible relationship and what's annoying the protagonist, what they both do for a living, and how they may have been in the past. They have a vacation coming up, them living their life, and how the protagonist is being abusive. The protagonist reflects on what they used to be when they first met, and then they go on their vacation, but they are not really talking to one another. This is going to drive their adventure distinct. All right. So remember, if you're following along from the original video, the inciting incident is actually that they end up going on vacation on a farm. They went to a farm, and they see a litter of Rottweilers, and the ex-partner purchases a Rottweiler, and that's the inciting incident, because that changes everything, right? So we have to go all the way up to them getting on the plane, or even waiting on the plane, and that's the end of the chapter. So I definitely would like to do that. I would say they get on the crowded, because that's funny, plane, and the protagonist tries to be nice, but the partner is quiet and places headphones on and looks out the window. All right, so that's going to be the last beat, and this is end the chapter with this beat. Okay. Quiet, you seem quiet. All right, so now I have somewhere. By the way, there's another thing that I talk about, is like understanding your ending. And I want to understand the ending of my chapter. So if I know this is where they're going to get to, I don't want to start them at this level in the beginning, because that's just really overpowering, and it could be too much. And in story, you want to kind of fluctuate and move things around like a roller coaster. A roller coaster. I don't know what that means. my singing. So now that I know that it's going to be in a very tense moment when they get on that plane and they're not really talking, I got to lead to that. And that's the fun part about being a writer. Is you get to see how to get there. How do you get there? Get there. All right. And where do we want to begin? Well, since I know it's only going to be a chapter long, there's a lot I could actually introduce right at the beginning. The relationship and what's annoying, well, that I'll show throughout the process. What they both do for a living and how they both have been in the past. All right, so maybe we could do the your official. They start their day off running around, getting ready for work. Make note that it's their last day before vacation starts. All right. In this situation, the partner keeps asking if they verified the car rental and other elements to the vacation location. Okay. Rhymes. All right. Uh, so why did I indent there? This is because this is more of like this is what I need to show, and this is sort of like how I'm going to show it. So I have they start their day off running around. Make note that this is their last day. So I might actually do this. Boop. What would make note of this? It's their last day of vacation. So I want to introduce the vacation. I want to introduce that the partner's already a little bit naggy, you know. Um, the By the way, I'm trying not to name them as guy and girl. It's just like because they could be whatever. I can make the protagonist a woman. I can make the partner both of them women. I can make it doesn't matter. I don't think that's as important when you're just laying out the plot. Because again, plot is what needs to happen. Story is how it happens. And once I start getting closer to solidifying my plot, then I could start thinking about the nuance of it. And that's where the creative element comes in as a writer, where you get to kind of like, Bob Ross has all the colors every other artist has, but it's Bob Ross's creative decisions that makes the painting what it is, right? So we're gonna just draw some happy trees over here. Okay. The protagonist um makes breakfast coffee for the partner. Well, they are both running a bit late. The partner thanks them for the breakfast. But they complain about the coffee being too sharp, right? or thick. Who likes a thick coffee? Not me. No. All right. Now, by the way, I'm not focusing on the therefore this happens or but this happens, even though I was just like, but I'm just trying to get ideas out. And for the record, if I went back, so the partner keeps asking if they verify the things, right? And in reality, I could be like, the protagonist keeps saying, yes, they did, and are getting annoyed, right? So that's a therefore moment. Now, I could actually extend this therefore moment by ultimately saying that this will lead, right? I could go, therefore, wait, but this is a but turns out that they didn't have the car verified, and therefore they need to scramble for a new car. Okay, so if I'm going to use that rule that I mentioned before as an example, think of it this way. I could have been like, the partner keeps asking if they verified the car. The protagonist keeps saying, yes, they did. And therefore they get annoyed, right? Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Yes, they did. But I could ignore the therefore and the but, and now it's just things happening. If the partner just keeps asking, "Hey, did you take care of the rentals and the location?" Blah blah, and they're like, "Yes, I did," and then it's just like a thumbs up. Now we move on to the next beat. The protagonist makes breakfast and coffee, and the partner's like, "Thanks," and then they leave the house to go to work, and then they get to work, and then they come home from work. Like that's the and then this happens, and then this happens, but the secret to writing is challenging that. And these are examples of small challenges or big challenges. So the protagonist keeps saying, yes, they did. Therefore, they get annoyed at being asked lots of questions. But it turns out that they didn't have the car verified. Therefore, they need to scramble for a new car. And I'm creating scenes and conflict and things that they have to find solutions to. Now, I'm going to run down here real quick. Oh, what happened here? Ooh. Uh, all right. So, okay. So, I know that car rental was not secured. So I already know that that's going to be in the inciting incident. So I just put that there just as a note so I remember. It says I've this is the fun part about the word read. I've read published material. No, I read published material that read very mechanically like that. Oh yes, as if the author was plotting while they were pantsing. Traditionally a pantser does the this happens and then this happens and this happens because they're just trying to get through the idea of what's going on. Stephen King actually and Jonathan says, and forgot to drop the unnecessary details. Sometimes Stephen King has a great rule for himself when this happens, because he does acknowledge it. He goes, sometimes things keep happening, but nothing is really happening. So if he finds himself like that, he goes, I'll throw them in a corner. I'll just think of something crazy. Sometimes a monster just shows up in the room and now they have to deal with the monster. Again, I'm not a huge Stephen King's fan as far as his works, but he obviously is clearly a skilled writer and knows it. And that bit of wisdom that he shoots out is quite helpful in the sense of when you do feel or realize that things just keep happening because, again, you might be pantsing or gardening. You could find yourself just going through a series of events, right? Even outlining, though, as you can see, as I was just plotting this out, until I got to these little beats, it was just things happening. But I created the change by adding the therefore or but. However, sometimes because I've done this for so long, I just naturally create the conflict itself. But that usually happens while I work it, not as I'm cleaning it up. Jonathan says, i.e., the character reached into their pocket. The character walked over to the table. Oh yes, the character placed the object on the table. One of the best ways to fix something like that, just for the record, for anyone who's getting into writing, is if the character reached into their pocket, the character walked over to the table, the character placed the object on the table. Every element that is brought up in that sentence, if it's valued in the story, as in it creates whatchamacallit, if it creates gotta put my chair up. If it creates a point of interest, then it should be mentioned. So if the character reached into their pocket, that has to be an important notice. If it's not, you can take it out. If the character walked over to the table, if that's going to be an important point, then you could leave it. But if it's not, you could take it out. And if the character placed the object on the table, if that's important, it's the same thing with a movie. With a movie, we don't see anything on screen unless it's important. I think we're back. All right. I don't. My power went off. I apologize. Uh, I guess it's still going. It looks like it's still going. All right, let's just double check that. That was pretty intense. Yeah, there's a huge storm going over here, where I am, and yeah, look at that. It's still going. It's still going. All right, and we're back. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Sorry about that. That's crazy. All right. Well, I'm just excited that I don't have to start over. All right. To finish up before I go right back to the plotting and everything like that. So the character reached into their pocket. Like, if it's going to be important, like a film or a television show, you want to show it. And if it's shown on that's the thing about being a writer. If they show it on television, you're like, all right, that's important. That there's a reason we saw that. Um, yeah, well, yeah, Jonathan, you do live streams on Monday nights around 9 o'clock every week. Excellent stuff. But when we get to the character reach into their pocket, there has to be something significant about that actually influences the story. Otherwise, as Jonathan's saying, it's just rambling. It's just like stuff is happening. To clarify something like that, though, you could just say the character placed an object on the table from their pocket, right? So if we establish that the character is not near the table, they're just in the room somewhere, we don't have to explain that they walked over to the table, because if they're putting something on it, it's clear that they walked over to it. All right, let's go back to the mission at hand here. Woo! Can you read that? Here, let me help you. Poof! It's magic. I did that. All right, let's see. Okay, so they start off their day. Again, just so everyone's clear, we're on the 27 plot outline. We're on plot point 1, which is the ordinary world. I am mapping it out. My second step is actually to map out the short form outline. I don't go into great detail. I just come up with ideas, beats to influence what's going to happen within that particular plot point. The extended outlines where I go into the deep thing. Whereas, like, I might go into more depth of how this plays out, how they ask, what they're doing, things like that. But that's not important right now. I just kind of want to know the straight beats, right? So the protagonist makes breakfast, and the partner running late. The partner thanks them for the breakfast, but they complain about the coffee being too sharp. Now, if I really wanted to, I could do, therefore, the protagonist later doesn't get them coffee when they make it in the vacation room. You don't like the way I make my coffee. All right. Therefore, did I spell therefore wrong over here? Yeah, I did. All right. Sometimes it happens. Great writers have great editors. Great writers have great editors. So if you can't spell or you have trouble with grammar, don't let that deter you from being a writer. It's important. Jonathan says these plotting videos make it very clear that there's a difference between plotting and writing prose. Correct. The prose will. Speaking of, I actually have a video coming up about purple prose based on your request, Jonathan. It's going to be a pre-recorded lesson, but yeah, the major difference between a plot and a prose is prose usually kind of is the way of building out the plot through story. So we get to show what we tell ourselves about the plot. And for reference, keep in mind that when you do write a telling moment, that's actually for the author, and when you show, that's for the reader. And why is that? It's because the author tells you what their experience is, whereas the reader experiences what is shown, right? So if a author tells you they're angry, that's them telling you they're angry because they believe they're angry. Whereas if a reader experiences the showing of anger through their behavior or their words, they can decipher if they're angry, and it becomes an experience for them. I really enjoy these. Oh, great, man! I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I love doing these. This is me taking the brainstorming though and kind of solidifying it into. But ultimately, you're always brainstorming when you're working out the story. So, so let's get back to this. So when do I want this part? You don't like the coffee? We could put that here. Don't like the coffee moment. All right, do you see how I'm taking beats from here and I'm extending them to the next moments and I'm letting them grow? That's really one of my favorite elements of this process, is that as I'm developing story from nothing, I have not put a lot of thought into this. The only time I think about this is when I'm doing these live videos. Because traditionally, if I was working a story, I would have done weeks and weeks and weeks of brainstorming. All right, so they get on a crowded plane. We know that's the end, but we still have to. So we've shown this. So I could what they do for a living. What do they do for a living? Do we need to know what they do for a living? See, that's an interesting question, right? How they may have been in the past, what they do for a living, and how they may have been in the past. I think those are two different beats. I don't think I need to know what they do for a living, but let's say the partner is dressed in a suit outfit, very high end job. The and the protagonist is dressed up more casually for a creative job, like graphic design. All right. That's going to be more showing than telling. I don't really have to have them be like, I do this for a living. No, we don't have to do that. But if we can guess that one of them has probably a higher paying job than the other, and one's more casual. It happens. Okay. So what we do for a living. Boom. This I'm actually going to bring up a little bit later. They have a vacation coming up that they're planning. Well, that's been, look at that. So the way I bring up that they have a vacation going is that I definitely will bring up that it's their last day of work. But the partner asking about the vacation and everything like that, we're leaving tomorrow first thing. All right. So not that those would be the exact words I would use, but I like to reference ideas and plots. This is me cleaning it out because I don't verify. Mental partner. All right. I don't need to know that it's for the vacation because the vacation's right there. So I like to clean it up just so it's readable. All right. Boop. That's done. Them living their life and how the protagonist is being abused. We actually kind of saw the little moment. All right. I know it looked like I was off the mic, and I was for a second. I was talking to my little pupper. All right. The protagonist reflects on what they used to be in life. I'm going to get to that moment. They go off. Okay, so that's more at the end. All right. So let's get to the next big beat, which is the protagonist runs late to work because they cleaned up the kitchen. Which, by the way, why did they clean up the kitchen? Partner complains about the mess they left. Therefore, they end up late to work. Therefore, uh, they end up cleaning the kitchen, but are late for work. So there you go. There's an example of creating a therefore and a but. I could have just let them get to work, but now an extra scene where protagonist runs late to work because they cleaned up the kitchen. They speak on the phone with their friend at the office or their boss to explain why they are late. Right? Okay. We could add little moments like that. Okay. We could have this the boss. The boss says something like, your work behavior is unacceptable. Last month, you left work 4 times to what? Unacceptable. I spell it wrong? That's wrong. Acceptable. Hate having an accent. All right. Okay. Last month, you left work 4 times because your partner needed you back home or to do something. All right. So why am I putting that there? I want to how they have been. It's another example of that. All right. So, I want to have a moment where the protagonist sits at their desk and looks at a photo on the desk of them and their partner. All right. Flashback of a moment when that photo was taken, which was when they, I don't know, first met or got married. All right. Okay. Now, if I want to give weight to that moment, what do I do? Well, I do a therefore. So, therefore, the protagonist goes and gets something from that date and surprises the partner when they get home. Okay. Now, do I want a button there? Yeah, of course I do. But who doesn't want a button? Okay. But the partner doesn't appreciate the sentiment. Did I get it? Oh yeah. I'm not a very good speller. And you don't have to be a writer. I'll say that a million times. Great writers have great editors. When writers are discouraged because oh, you can't spell. How can you be a writer? Oh, your grammar's horrible. How can you be a writer? I think that's terrible because some of the greatest writers of our generation were terrible spellers and stuff like that. And in reality, writing is the creative element of it, right? It's like working it out like this, and I don't need to be a great speller to work out ideas and create conflict and create motivations and create scenarios. That's what a writer does. In fact, I've been in writing rooms for television or like short films and stuff like that, and the ideas that are being kicked off are coming from people that don't know how to write a script. They just understand story. They just oh, my camera's getting a little blurry. They're not necessarily great formatters are great. They don't understand the layout. They don't know how to write dialogue and format. But they know how to have a conversation. They know how to create the conversation. They know how to get the flow of a character out, and those are their suggestions. Hey, what if the character really was, wouldn't they be concerned about blank blank blank, and hey, if we did X, Y, and Z. Like, they're great at understanding and manipulating the motivations and the conflicts, and that to me is writing. It's the idea of designing a story and plot and conflicting those plots and stuff like that. So spelling is not necessarily key to writing. Nor is grammar. I speak to some people. They're like, I went to school I got a doctorate in writing, and you can't be a writer unless you go to college and you take courses on it. Otherwise, and it's like, no, listen, you can be amazing at grammar and spelling and still be a poor writer. Okay. And then you could be someone who dropped out of high school or school because of the depression and end up being an amazing writer, like with no schooling. Just come on. All right. Don't discredit or dissuade people from their dreams, how they may have been in the past. Oh, that's what I'm explaining here, right? So that flashback, I haven't really figured out what it's going to be, but I know there needs to be a flashback of that first meet, when they first met or got married, and I would create that in the extended outline. But let's keep going. Okay. So I know that I need that moment. The partner walks through the door and sees the protagonist holding X item from their past. This turns into the partner responds with, did you have time to double check the flight as I had asked? Right. And the protagonist says, yeah, yeah. I thought it would be nice to create our pre-vacation night with a dinner from our met for marriage to celebrate how lucky we are to have found one another. Okay. All right. So obviously this, I would have to show them. The partner says that they had a long day and need to shower. Had a long day and need to shower. They don't have time to reminisce. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Reminisce. All right. Reminisce, but sure dinner is warm when I get out. I could really eat. Now, I could also do something else. I could do the partner doesn't put the pieces together that the protagonist has something or prepared something from their past. So, like, they just, they're like, oh, I have to go shower. I feel disgusting or whatever, and they run up and they're like, oh, there's dinner. Can you just make sure it's warm? And now, it's because they don't appreciate the sentiment. They don't really acknowledge it. And you could play it off that way. Like, they just don't recognize the gesture. Right. Jeez. Okay. So there you go. That's pretty fun thing. All right. So now we I already have that, right? Life and how the protagonist is being abused. Okay. So I got all these beats. I just got to get these two more and the chapter's done. So I could have them have dinner and maybe have another moment of abuse. But again, like, I don't need to have a scene to show the abuse, because the character's behavior is abusive. So whatever situation they're in should represent an abusive behavior. And sometimes that happens with writers, where they know they want to show, like, I want to show, uh, my character is capable at computers. So I'm just going to have one scene where the character is actually capable, and then uh, the scene itself doesn't necessarily do anything. It just exists. But if you've been following the Alien story that I've been working on the live as well, um, it actually builds on the story more. There's more going on. I made sure that it wasn't just about them being capable with the computer, because I showed them capable with another moment. I showed them capable with helping an employee, which meant that they're dedicated to helping people and that they care, but they just don't like their job. So every beat that we create, every element that we want to create needs to have something, or a cause and effect also. For example, the partner has a flashback about a moment, and what does that lead to? They go and do something nice for their partner. So if I have them sitting on a desk and they just remember their past, just so you, the audience, knows that they once had a great relationship, is not as powerful as it being influential, because then it becomes things are happening, but nothing is happening. So I allow beats or moments to create movement and allow the story to unfold. I'm not going to have them having dinner. We know that they're going to eat dinner, but there's no reason for the dinner. So let's get them waking up. Let's do it. Okay. The the protagonist bed and meets up with the partner who gives them an attitude. All right. They get ready to leave, right, which is important. Now I'm just kind of mapping out the idea of what their morning would look like, and then I could go back and kind of mess it up a little bit. They go off on their vacation, but they are not really talking to one. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? I would like to hear your take about characterization sometime. I think authors can sometimes get carried away with their characterization, just like they do with unnecessary plot details. Um, when you say characterization, do you mean like the work that you do before you write the character, or are you talking about their behavior within the story? Because I have a take on both. All right. Let's see. They go off and they're not really talking. Well, that's going to be this. This is going to drive. I'm taking away this, and I'm turning this into a flight. They take a plane there. All right. So then we don't need to see the disdain the whole time. All right. Strike through. Oh, for example, the characterization could be a reflection of the story's overall theme. I mean, the way I look at a story when I'm writing it is ultimately, how does it serve the plot, and how does the plot serve the story, and how does the story serve the plot? Like, they have to all be kind of working together. And if I create a characterization of a particular player in the story, or a characterization of a theme kind of manifesting itself through things, I might find myself not enjoying the process as much. In other words, the reader doesn't always need to know character's backstory or past. Correct. I believe that. I believe that 100% that uh, the reader doesn't always need to know a character's backstory or past traumas if it doesn't connect with the story. Uh, yeah. Plot. Well, a story without plot goes nowhere. But a plot without a story is boring. Um, However, I will say that I need everything to affect everything, but not everything has to be connected. Subplots don't necessarily have to be directly connected to a main plot. However, a subplot should add value to the experience and not take away from it. I don't need to know that the protagonist in this particular story that I'm working on right now, uh, in third grade, lost their best friend. They were in a car accident. I don't need to know that. I don't need to show the audience that. It's not important. Why would it be important? If, let's say, they have a fear of cars, right? They ride a bicycle. Why do you always ride a bike? Well, maybe it'll come out slowly. Like, that's the other thing. Don't give away everything. If the character rides a bike and they're like, no, let's just take a car, it'll be quicker. And they're like, oh, I like riding. It's good for your health. And then people are just making fun of them or complaining. And then slowly through the story, we learn that, their best friend died in a car accident and they're afraid of cars and, it's justifiable and blah, blah, blah. That would be a subplot to me and not a main plot. So I don't think it would be relevant to really dig deep, but it could be something you see through the story. But you don't have to do everything. However, whatever you put into the story has to have purpose. Just like when you asked this question earlier, Jonathan, the character reached into their pocket, the character walked over to the table, the character placed the object on the table. All three of those are important or not important, depending on the value it adds to the story and plot. Everything needs to kind of work together. All right. Okay. With that said, they get ready. Okay. The partner is already packed. The protagonist is getting packed. They have a fight about this instead of getting ready. Okay. Therefore, they run late to the airport. Oh. But plane is delayed. Watch this. I'm going to do a couple therefores. So, but the plane is delayed. Therefore, the protagonist points out that it all worked out and there was no need to fight. What are we doing? We're leading up to her, or not her, the partner not talking to them and to put their headphones on and look out the window. All right. But you're a slacker and you don't think ahead. Okay. Now I'm going to do a therefore for that as well. Therefore, the protagonist learns to think ahead. So that's the seed of the protagonist sort of growing. We know later on in the story they're going to think ahead, and that's how they overcome their conflict. So ultimately, in the first beat of the story, or chapter 1, we've already given them the seed to success, to finding a solution to the conflict. Ooh, I like that. Okay, they have a fight. Okay, the plane is delayed. So that means I want to see that out. They drive to the airport, and actually, I could take that away. They enter the airport, and then plane is delayed. Protagonist protagonist points out that it all worked out and there was no need to fight. Okay, excuse your slacker and inability to think ahead. All right. Boop. Now I wrote this here because this is me allowing myself to see how I work to it. So because they have a fight about this instead of getting ready, so they are running late to the airport. They rush into airport. Okay, into the airport. And now I get to see their process and their motives and their reactions to those ideas. And I don't want to have to remember all that because as I'm working through the plot and the subplots, that's going to develop. And by the time I get to number 27, I may not recall why I had this behavior. So it's good to kind of keep those notes there as a reflection of what's going on. I don't think I need the I have it. All right. Okay. Boop. There we go. I got all the beats. They get on the crowded plane. Okay. Protagonist tries to be nice. The partner is quiet and places headphones on and looks out the door. All right. So there you go. That's my first chapter. I got it out. I'm actually going to delete this because I don't need that. That was for another example. Normally, I wouldn't delete anything. I would just strike it out because I want to be able to look back at all my notes and everything. So there you go. That's chapter 1. All right. So let's see. The protagonist's mental health shows during this time. The soon-to-be ex-partner doesn't let the protagonist hang out with their friends, even though all went to college. So those are 2 beats I definitely missed in writing this. So let's see if I could add that in, and then we'll call it a day. All right. And again, you don't want to have to write a whole scene for one thing. So how do we add in the protagonist mental health shows? Over the day running around, getting ready for work. Okay. The protagonist is sluggish in the beginning and slowly finds their rhythm. Oh, the partner. Hurry up and not be late to work again. Okay, so that's seating. Oh, what do we got? I think it would be interesting to see how much of your notes translate into prose. Are you saying you want to see you want to see how I write? Do you want to see what it would look like if I wrote a scene out, or you want to see my actual writing? Is that what you're looking for? Me too, actually. What does that look like? I don't know. Do I give you a sneak peek and then you discover what we call a before the book comes out kind of moment? All right, let's see what we got here. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if you deserve it. Do you deserve it? Do you deserve it? Where would it be? trying to find it for you. 1 second. I'll give you some. I'll give you a little behind the scenes. I'll give you a little behind the scenes. Do you want a little bit behind the scenes? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. All right. I'm gonna cut it out so you don't read everything else because I don't want to give away too much. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that kind of person. Whee! Here you go. All right. Boop. There you go. Enjoy. Russia. So that's one of my. I'm more of a character before plot and story. I'll respond to that in a second. Oh, look at that. Their shared gaze. I'm gonna leave it what I have because I like what I wrote. So I am actually someone who doesn't believe there is such thing as character driven story or plot driven story. I think plot driven story is just narrative without story, and I think character driven story is narrative without plot. Um, However, I'm not negating the fact that you enjoy writing character driven narratives that focus more on how they react and work through the scene and less about what needs to happen, which is very plausible. Um, but any great story is is going to uh, relay a strong plot through character. Um, so, for example, I don't believe in exposition. I believe in character exposition, which is a term I work through, where I deeply believe that um, characters should work through the story and not the other way. Like they shouldn't just be vessels to make a plot happen or whatever. Um, Jonathan, did you finish reading it? I don't know if you're a quick reader or not. I got to work on the thing, but I figured I'd give you a. Her suit of armor concealed her womb, and blood flowed from beneath her into a puddle of consequence that consumed them both. His first tears of love drained from him onto the cold metal that failed to protect her. Vargas fought to show strength as his filthy hand shook, reaching for the back of her head. He held her as best as he could as the battle that raged behind them now vanished into silence in their gaze at one another. Tierney ran her fingers through his soaked hair. He could feel her fading. The slight pull of her weakened hand asked for his lips. He leaned in at her request to consummate the unspoken bond they shared. Their love for one another was praised in her final moments as they kissed. The warmth left her lips to enter his memories as her presence was taken. Ooh. I have to read. You don't have to read. I read it for you. Yes, plot through character. Correct. Plot through character is very good. So I was hoping to be immersed in the full. Oh, I see. I see. So you wanted to watch me write it out? Well, if you keep following this series, boop. By the way, that's a very important scene that you just read. That's a small snippet of a book I'm working on right now, a fantasy novel, epic fantasy. So plot through character, got it? Yeah, correct. Like you want the plot to be there, but you want it to be pulled by character, and the way they react to it becomes what you would call character-driven stories. But anyway, the TJB experience. All right, so let's. Oh, so the protagonist is sluggish. This is showing some form of mental health. Okay, the beginning slows the rhythm. Hurry up to not be late again. I'm actually seeding this where they're, hey, your behavior is unacceptable. Okay. Also, you're always late. Okay. Um, they take no, I'm not gonna have them take pills. I'm not gonna have them take pills. No pills. All right. So let's see. They worked again. And what else do I want to see? The partner runs circles around the protagonist. They get into the shower. Yep. The protagonist now moves faster than the partner. Partner collects their things and asks where the tickets for the plane are for tomorrow. Protagonist points to the refridge. Refridge. Ooh. All right. Make note that it's their last day. Okay, so they're going to hang out with their friends. Okay. Oh, you know what? You could add. This is why I didn't want you hanging out with your friends last night. On time. Never is an extreme and part of abuse. Okay. See that? Gotta know what you're writing there. All right. This leads into that they haven't seen them in months. The partner, bad influence on you. It's called isolation. That's abuse. So we're showing abuse. The partner loved when they are around. This is manipulation. Okay. I like a little manipulation. All right, so there you go. Make note that okay, let's add some more stuff here. The partner is dressed in suit. Okay, so we're gonna go back here. Therefore, the protagonist left their keys at their friend's house because they were drunk. And that's just excess stuff. That's more subplot we don't need. All right, runs late to work because they clean up. Okay, so the partner walks through the door. Okay, the protagonist sits at their desk. They are mentally and emotionally exhausted. You get that right? Exhausted. They look unkept. All right. So there we go. Unkempt. No. No. That's right. Right. Unkept. Yeah, that's a real word. What the hell? Oh, they are unkept. Stupid. Stupid grammar. What? That's not a word. Unkempt. Having an untied. Oh, my bad. There you go. Learned something new today. This is a real word. It means to look disheveled. All right. Okay. It happens. Protagonist deflates, and partner's energy. All right. So there we go. We introduced a lot of the mental health stuff. So this was enough right there. We can actually add more of that later. But there you go. That is my first chapter. All right. And then obviously I would do that with every uh, plot point. In fact, as I wrote it before I did this, next time I sit down, I would actually read through this again, and I would just kind of like take it in, and I go, what is the next real step? Well, obviously, they land plane, head to the car rental location. Now, as Jonathan mentioned, sometimes you don't want to do all this, but I'm writing out the steps of the story in my head, and then I can either go through it and say, how does this add to the story or not add to the story? I should take it out. Should I keep it? If I'm going to keep it, I need to bring more value to it. So during this stage, just write literally everything you want to write, and then break it down from there. Obviously, like they land. What do I want to show in this, and am I showing enough? If I'm not showing enough, then it's not needed. It's like, just cut the scene. Let's see. Thomas is not used to being around people who are unkept, hence having no prior knowledge. He is quite the dandy. All right. So, as George Carlin would say, why don't we use dandy anymore? um, for the record, it's only because we don't dress dandy anymore that word. No, I don't know. It's just. All right, so I guess any questions on what I talked about today, or some of the process? Nothing. Great. Okay, bye. No. So, what is my next step is probably something you guys are wondering. Like, why should I keep listening? Why do I have to follow you people? Is maybe what you're thinking. Like, why do I gotta be here? I don't want to be here. And I'm like, no, you should be here. It's important. It's important. As you know, I go every other day. So the next week, on Saturday, what's today? The 25th. On April 1st, we will actually we'll go over exercises to discover your voice as a writer. The following Saturday, April the 8th, I will actually take this, what you're looking at right now, the subplot, the short form outline, and I'll show you how I expand the plot outline. So we'll actually go into working out scenes using this little breakdown right here. Okay. Let's see. No questions. There's no questions. All right. Well, if you have questions and you're watching this video after the live, feel free to leave your comments below. Other than that, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. I appreciate you stopping by. Very nice of you. You're a good guy. Anyone who hasn't yet, I recommend you watching his show 9 o'clock on Mondays. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I like doing this. This is fun stuff. I like breaking down the process and showing you how I've learned to work through it, how I was taught to learn through it. You are welcome. I love that. I don't know if your real last name is Prime or not, but I hope it is, because Transformers was one of my favorite shows in the world, and Transformers, transform and roll out is all I'm saying. I definitely love that. All right. I guess, I should do the quintessential. Hey, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to The Right Mindset. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. My final thoughts. Trust the process. You got to trust the process. My final thoughts is ultimately, when it comes down to the short form outline, you take your brainstorm and then you put it into beats to fill out the chapter or chapters. This is the time where you might decide when and where a chapter would be. You would decide, do I want to take a plot point and create a beginning, middle, and end? In fact, do I want to create a beginning, middle, and end to each beginning, middle, and end moment? You're allowed to do whatever you want. That's the genius of being a writer. Look at this. What's going on here? Let's see. Oh, I fixed it. Whoa. It's like I woke up from a dream sequence. So keep in mind, this is really where you create the architectural outline, just in thoughts, quick thoughts. You're not working on scenes, etc., and you're developing basically the narrative plot of what you're going to work on. The extended outline will kind of dig deeper into the characters, their choices, what a scene may play out to be. And this is where we could add some dialogue, but we're not necessarily, as Jonathan wrote earlier, writing prose, or purple prose, in fact, but we are kind of trying to get the idea of their voice, the character's voice, through their dialogue and stuff like that. All right. So what do we got here? We got a comment. Transformers was my main inspiration for my. See, look at that. Great minds think alike. Got jazz. Hey, I like playing this music, man. I love jazz. A little Porsche. And then of course Optimus Prime, and Megatron, Starscream, Megatron. Fun fact: the Transformers movie, the cartoon, where they were trying to kill off characters to create new story, new toy line. Leonard Nimoy is in that movie. Who's he playing again? I think he plays Leonard Nimoy. Nimoy. He plays I think he plays the Galvatron. I think he plays Galvatron. Which is great. But also Orson Welles, that's his last project, if I remember correctly. He voiced Unicron. I think I'm right on that. I could be wrong. Let's see. It was the 80s because I was a child when I saw that in the theaters. God, I feel old. 80s. Here we go. Transformers, more than meets the eyes. Oh. Transformers, the movie. And there it is. I own that on every variation of media. That movie changed my life. Yeah, Orson Welles was Unicron and Leonard Nimoy was Galvatron. I knew. And I believe it was Orson Welles was indeed his last movie. There's a lot of voice actors in there. Grimlock. I love Grimlock. Anyway, there you go. That's your trivia for today. Normally I have a question to leave. Do we got a question today? Oh. Here we go. When you're writing out your plot, what is it you're trying to convey first? What you want to happen or how you want it to happen? Let me know in the comments below. Why is my camera doing this? Let's see. Let's figure that. You like my shirt? Look at my. Right? Is it mirrored? Oh yeah, it's mirrored. Here, wait. I'll fix that and give you a nice look. See. Mirror my camera. There we go. Let's see. I love this shirt. Is all I'm gonna say. This shirt is great. All right, we got to go back to mirror. All right, that's it. I'm done. I got to go. Have a great day. As always, keep developing the right mindset and elevate and inspire your fellow friends. Let's get out of here.